you're a realtor and you're interacting with people every single day, like potential buyers and sellers, contractors, people who are helping your business grow. Have you ever found yourself censoring yourself from saying something for the sake of getting business?
Sometimes, yeah. Just because.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is episode 18 of the DC Talks podcast. I'm your host, Agent 00, back in the DC headquarters.
Can you please stop?
No, never.
That bullshit, dude.
Never with the 00. That's my brand, and you just got to deal with it, DC.
Right, cool. Can I have my wife back on the show now?
As long as she watches your reels.
Yeah, that can happen. That can happen.
Yes, sir. But a lot has happened since we last chatted. You recently turned 45.
Oh, easy on the numbers, big guy.
Hey, 45. You know, that's a Jordan number when he came back to the NBA.
I'm halfway to 90, as I say.
Halfway to 90. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So how did you celebrate your 45th birthday?
Celebrated is a strong word.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. My brother from Waterloo, he's a professor at Laurier. Mm-hmm. And so he lives out there with his wife and 2 kids. At Christmas time, we decided to do something together as a family.
Yeah.
And I love my brother and his wife, but they go like, oh, let's do some camping or something. That Natalie and I looked at each other and said, hell no, we're not camping. Like,
you're not about that.
No. And then Sarah's just like, okay, well, maybe we'll just bring our kids. I'm like, have you met my daughters? They'll be on their phones the whole time. They'll be miserable. So
they'll
I'm
be on TikTok, everything.
Yeah.
IG, Snapchat.
So I was at the gym in the one morning and right around just before Christmas, and they're like, oh, Jay's ticket's going to be on, going to be up for sale. And I'm like, let's do that. Let's bring our kids to a Jay game. We can spend all this time together. Exactly. And it just happened to fall on my birthday. Yeah, my brother came in. I got a workout in the morning, which I needed to do. Then we went and we took the subway. I haven't taken the TTC in a very long time. I didn't want to get stabbed, so that's why we don't do that.
Or pushed on the rails.
Right?
Yes.
No, we were all good. We got to the J game and they sucked balls. They lost like 7 or 8-1 against the Rays. And then, anyway, but it was fun. We came back the day before. My kids.
Season opener?
No. It was it was their 3rd game of the 3-game series.
Okay.
Yeah, Manoa sucked. So April 16th, right? That's my birthday. So, I forgot the day before. My kids actually made me a cake, and it was good.
Sounds wholesome.
Yeah, man, I love it. It was just like it was nothing huge. It was just spending with family, chilling out, and like I think Natalie and I ended up watching Succession that night, just chilling out. It was a good night.
I gotta tap into that. I also saw you wearing some Jays at the Jays game.
Yeah.
I feel it was looking proper too.
Yeah, man. The whole family was decked out in the Jays stuff. We love the Jays.
Of course. But, that sounds great, man. Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the whiskey and the cigars the team got you.
Yeah.
And have a whiskey and cigar night. But today, what I'm really excited to talk to you about, as you turn another chapter in your life, a lot's happening in the world. I'm sure that we're noticing everything is changing from the way we interact with each other, the way we govern ourselves, like a lot of things that we can't say. From your perspective, how do you see, like, I can share with you my thoughts on what I see, but when you're going out and about, how are you feeling with the way the world's changing in 2023 with how we got to watch what we say and how we address each other?
It's very, very difficult. You got to be careful. Honestly, when we say on social media, it really matters as well, right? There's certain people, when you meet them in person, you kind of get their personalities and find out what it's like and see what you can say and what you just don't say. But most of the time, we don't say anything. Even something as simple as, pronouns nowadays. Like, we don't want to piss anybody off. And I heard about a teacher getting fired the other day because she mispronounced and said, like, hey, how you girls doing? And it was an all-girls school. And they're like, oh, no, you can't say that. And she got fired for that. It's like,
she got fired?
She got fired for saying in an all-girls school. She was saying, hey, girls, like, how was your weekend? Or something along those lines. I was like, I think it's gone a little too far. So anyway, my point is, like, sometimes I got to reel back, and I understand people have emotions and feelings, but so I'm going to be real. You know what I mean? I'm still real. I just got to sometimes I got to pull Dave back a little bit because sometimes Dave is a little too much for even for Natalie, who's with me all day and just shakes her head. So yeah. When you have a closed group of friends and stuff too, and we kind of share, and sometimes like there's certain things I just won't say, and I don't believe. Like I'm not an idiot. Like I'm not saying that I'm not, nothing crazy, but stuff we used to be normally said and like in a normal setting is like you got to be careful, right?
So what do you think changed? Because when you were, let's say, back in your like mid-20s, like this was like totally acceptable. Like you can address someone the way you want to address them, based on what they appear as, right? But as time has gone on, you're noticing a lot more delicate way of moving around in terms of conversing with each other. Where do you think this pressure to adapt to this way of living came from, in your opinion?
In my honest opinion?
Yeah.
I think it's a distraction.
It's a distraction?
Yeah. So, like if you want to get, I love my conspiracy theories. I love all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
The government has been pushing this pronouns, all this stuff too. And it's how many people really care about the pronouns? Let's be honest.
Yes.
Like I have, like I said, maybe one transgender tenant who, he calls himself he, even though he used to be a she. So it's like, it's fine, but never calls himself they. I don't really know too many people that call themselves they. But if you follow the media, it seems like everybody in the world is really, that's all they care about. But what I get worried about is like, they're distracting us from what's actually happened in the past. Like, so I'm not a fan of Trudeau. I'm just not. I'll be honest with you. I voted for him the first time because I needed the change, but I just haven't liked the way he's governed, the country, how he's just been quote unquote woke and stuff. So I think it's like from his policies, every time there's something that's coming on the media that's about this, pronouns and all this other stuff too, we got to look behind the scenes. Like, what bill is he passing behind you? And that's what I'm worried about. And listen, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not any of that shit. Like, let's be honest here. I'm looking at the guy and I'm like, I don't like you. I'm sorry. I'll put out there. I don't like Trudeau. I don't care if people don't. Listen, you're going to use me as a realtor, not because of my affiliation. I voted liberal in the past. Yeah. I liked Jean Chrétien. I didn't really care for Harris. Anyways, there's just I don't care about politicians themselves. I look at the person. I just don't like Trudeau. I just don't. And I don't like what he's been doing.
You're following things as for what's right. And like,
that's correct.
Exactly. You're more seeking truth more than anything, and actually wanting to follow like
but look at the guy. But look what he's done in the past. Like don't tell me he's not racist. Even how not even talking about the truckers or any of that kind of stuff too, when he comes out and then the rest of the world is calling him racist, and yet he's calling us racist, and everybody in the world, it just doesn't make any sense. Where he did like blackface, and you can't do that, right? It's just, you can't be, just pretend nothing happened, or all the controversy him and his family has been involved to. Like at the end of the day, I've talked about my sister-in-law and some of the friends of Trudeau. I'm like, I just don't like him. Like if you got somebody else in the power that you can actually trust and have a conversation with, I might vote liberal. Who knows? It's not the ideology. It's not anything else. There's something about him that I don't like. Now, I can get canceled by saying that. Yeah. There's going to be people maybe that are saying, well, F you. And I'm like, that's fine. That's your opinion. Every time he talks, there's something inside of me that it just, it hurts.
Do you feel like he's not being genuine?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so when we're talking about all the stuff that's being pushed along the agenda and stuff too, well, what's going on in the background? So back to and that's like, there's been bills passed to which if you look at all of some, like there's, things are happening like
Bill C 20 something, right? Like the internet bill, like where everything that you do on the internet is going to be even censored even more. So they're going to be pushing one type of content towards like your feed, your YouTube, your Instagram, and everything going on. So essentially they're ushering a new way of thinking, all the same. Like if you have an opinion that's totally different from what is actually supposed to be thinking, that's not right.
What happened to freedom of speech?
Exactly.
Like, again, I remember one thing on Instagram, it was hilarious. I just said something I didn't even badmouth him because I make sure when I'm on Instagram, I don't badmouth the PM, even though I don't care for him. I just say, oh, here we go. Like, I remember saying something, I don't trust what this guy says. And I had this thing block up on Instagram and it's like, you can't say this against the government. I'm like, I'm not allowed to say, and it wasn't anything bad. I didn't swear. I didn't say death. There was nothing negative really I said about this guy. Yet at the same time, it's like, you can't say that. I'm like, but what did I say? I just said, I don't agree with this. And all of a sudden I got censored for that. It was, that bothered me. That really bothered me. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. That started turning the tide for me when he was changing the censorship and all that kind of stuff too. And it's, again, I don't know if, here's the caveat to this. I don't think any of the leaders are any better either. Like, Polyev,
Pierre Polyev.
I don't know, like it's something about him reminds me of more of a dictator. You know what I mean? And then you got Jagmeet Singh, who's just I don't trust the NDP just because their finances, I've seen what they've done in Ontario. He might be a nice guy, but he's back and forth. He's just, again, so it's not like I'm like, oh, you have to go with this guy. Again, I don't trust any politicians.
Yeah, man. I think what it sounds like, it's like you want someone who's going to lead the country, the province in a way that's actually for the people. It's not like some agenda that's actually supposed to uniform us into one way of being, because we can go back and look at, okay, Pierre Polyev, he wants to do things a certain way, but even though it looks the opposing way to Trudeau, there's other bad stuff behind it. So it seems like we'll never really have a leader who is actually genuinely for the people and is actually doing things for the interest of the people and not for some sort of control.
Well, think about it. In order for a politician to get where they are, they need to get funding, which means there's people paying for them. So they really can't have their own opinion. So like a lot of it, like it's who's funded them to get to a certain point. So at the end of the day, like they're all some sort of a puppet at the end, right? Like who's paid for their campaign? Who's paid for this? Yeah, there's no genuine person that can really run the country, really, in that sense. At the end of the day, it's like we've talked about the presidents. I've said this to my wife many, many times. The president of the United States is a puppet behind everybody else, whether you believe in the Illuminati, like some people say it's that, or if you believe in big corporations. They all said that too. Like, well, if you ever watched any election, even satires, they're like, well, who's paying for your campaign? Well, everybody knows who's paying for their campaign has a lot of say what bills they pass. So to believe that a president, a prime minister, anybody who's gotten paid some long way to get to where they were, that's not influenced by somebody is naive.
Yeah. Going back to the censorship, you're a realtor and you're interacting with people every single day, like potential buyers and sellers, contractors, people who are helping your business grow. Have you ever found yourself censoring yourself from saying something for the sake of getting business?
Sometimes, yeah. Just because, not radical stuff, right? And everything else too. But when COVID was out, and about the vaccine and things like that, and some people weren't candidates, I just kind of kept my mouth shut, whether I believed, and I had friends on both sides, we had family members who were totally vaccinated and other family members who were unvaccinated. So that was a very touchy subject. We've seen a lot of people, their families get divided, let alone, my business. So we just didn't talk about it. Somebody talk about it, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. And you find like there's a balance between staying authentic and being true to yourself and also being socially accepted by those around you. Like, what's your approach between finding that right balance where you feel like you're not really losing yourself, but you also want to integrate yourself and actually be seen as someone who people can interact with?
We have to be true to yourself, really, right? If I don't lie, I'm not good as a liar. So it's like, if I'm finding it's infringing upon who I am as a person, obviously it's like, hey, listen, this is where I'm at. Even certain things in the beginning, if you don't know somebody, kind of feel them out, and then you kind of explain where you're at. That's how you kind of get around it. In the beginning, nobody really just kind of says, here's who I am.
Exactly.
Boom, right? Like, it's like, no, you gotta I'm a big personality. I get that. Like, even when you met me too, I wasn't right in your face, right? Like, the way we interact now is much different than we interacted before. Exactly. Yes. So you just kind of but that's also based on relationship and getting to know people as well. So as you get to know people more and more, you get to know more about me. And that's kind of like how it is. It's like, but I am pretty much black and white. You don't see, there's no gray area with me. So it's you know where you stand.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there's a part of where things can turn on you on a dime. Right. And we've seen it happen. And it doesn't happen in real life like the way we're in this room interacting. But when you do something online, the mob really comes at you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that is the difference between night and day, and you being relevant and you being irrelevant, and you being someone who's really out there. Like, you're pumping out content, about 4 to 5 pieces of content a day, like on every single platform. If you were to come out and say something that the mass or the mob doesn't agree with, that can be the difference between you maybe staying DC in the GTA area and you actually being accepted. So there's a thing of actually not really being out there the way you want to be, because you've got to appease people. So that's where I find it difficult moving forward, is I can think like this, but I have to really hold myself back, because it's going to come and, it's a boomerang back on me, and I can just lose everything I've worked hard for.
Well, yeah, even by me saying what I was about Trudeau earlier, I might lose followers, people too, just because it's a personal opinion about mine. It's, again, I don't force any ill harm, and I remember I don't even talk about politics anymore. When he would do something stupid, I'm like, and I was even sharing something. I remember one time, Trudeau did something, I think when blackface came out, I shared it, people were ripping on me, and I'm like, I didn't even say anything. So I kind of don't talk about politics. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. Anything that's really too hot on social media, because again, you don't want to be stereotyped as somebody regardless. So you kind of pull back your own personal things at some point, on social media. It's just not worth it at the end of the day. Literally, and again, I'm doing a risk by just saying this, but again, I don't like any of the politicians. So I'm not saying just for him. when, the last government before, right? It's like, when they kind of gave up on us too, and it was like, they weren't doing anything. I didn't like the PC government,
Exactly,
right? At that point too. And I talked bad about not bad. I just said, hey, we need a change. We need something else. And that's why I voted for Trudeau, right? So if you know me, and it's like, I want the best for people. And when you were falling down and you're obviously clearly getting paid by somebody else, I have a problem internally on that. But I haven't had backlash, even if I'm not personally saying anything. Well, even the other day, like I talk about real estate stuff. I'll take like an article and I'll talk about it on Instagram. I'll put it on the green screen and I'll say, hey, like buyers are back. And this was the name of the title. Buyers are back. And there's a bidding war. I had people ripping on me and going, you asshole realtors, you're just trying to get us to buy, you're ruining the market. I'm like, I literally just read the title of the article.
Yeah,
like
I didn't say TikTok. Anything. People were like coming at you on TikTok for that one video. Like there's one TikTok you posted where they called you like a scammy landlord.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell where was this coming from?
That's what I'm saying. Like talk to all of my tenants. What I usually get back from my tenants is this, like, you're the nicest, most responsive landlord I've ever had. I said, absolutely. That's my job. You message me. I want to make sure you're heard and we try to solve it, because if I don't solve your issue right now, it's become a bigger problem. And if you choose to move out, I need to know why. Like I've done everything in my power to make sure you stay, because it cost me money for tenants to move out, right? But yeah, like I was like, what the hell do you know about being a landlord? And it was going back for like, you landlords just do this. I'm like, we're going back and forth that interaction. Some people are just trolls. Yeah. They're looking for any opportunity to jump down your throat, whether it's that, like whether it's about real estate, whether it's like we said before about, the pronouns, whether it's about, I don't know, like if the weather. There are people just miserable with their lives. So why give them feed? But literally my job is to talk about real estate. So when I talk about it too, I already know one of my videos, and you saw like, I preface it saying, I already know there's going to be naysayers going to be talking about this. And they still came out. And this one lady was ripping on me, and she lives in Ottawa. She's like, that's not what we're seeing out here. But I'm like, and I'm like, you're in Ottawa. It's a way different market there. Like, don't be jumping down my throat because you're not happy with the outcome of this article. I said, read the article. Like, it has nothing to do with me.
If you can choose one word to describe cancel culture, what would that word be to you?
Stupid. I can't stand cancel culture is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And the reason why I say stupid, there's things that people are saying, which a normal conversation are getting people canceled. And it's like, for what reason, right? If you come out and you're like, and you're saying things which is going to harm other people, or you're going to like, like that's, if it's racist, if it's has any bigotry, if it's homophobic, I get that. But people now have taken it so far that you can't even give your opinion, and you're like, and you're done.
And there's no coming back.
There's no coming back.
It's like you have to be irrelevant for a couple of years, then make a comeback or reinvent yourself in some type of way. Then you're being socially accepted again.
Well, look what happened to Roseanne Barr.
Roseanne Barr, who's that?
You don't know who Roseanne Barr is?
Who's Roseanne Barr? I generally don't know who that is.
Okay, so Roseanne had a TV show back in the day. Like she was a heavier lady, and now she looks much better. But anyway, and
maybe this is before my time, bro.
Yeah, it was like it's a blue collar family, and then they reinvented it. Came back a couple of years ago, and she had made a comment which she thought her coworker was white, I think, or black. I can't remember what it was, and the network fired her right away without her even coming back, and like didn't even give her a chance to come out. And now the network has to pay her millions of dollars because they realized they canceled her too quickly, that it was taken out of context. So the show was like, her name's Roseanne Connor in the show. So they killed her off on the show and then continued the show called The Connors. And which, again, because of cancel culture, she had lost her job, but now she's reaping benefits because of cancel culture. Now she's speaking out about all these things. So that's what I'm saying. It's stupid. You canceled her so quickly that you didn't even like give her a chance to respond. That's what I find like, obviously in our daily lives, like if I'm canceled, I'm like, can't go to a network and make, $40, $50 million saying you canceled me, but we don't have that luxury. But it's just one of those things that you like, how stupid was that? Like they knee-jerk reaction and it cost them because they're trying to be woke or whatever it was, or something that try to be, and now it's costing them a lot of money.
Yeah. And I also find too that, with the rise of social media, like Instagram and everything, people feel like they have access to you that like they've never had before. Like I can go to Will Smith's DMs and I can just message him something. And I don't know if he read it, but there's a chance he saw it or read it. So, and also just having them on public profiles and everything like that. we feel like we can say anything and do anything and hide behind a username without our face on it. And the thing is, psychologically,
fucking cowards. I'm sorry. That's just cowards.
When you see something trending on Twitter and say, oh, Will Smith, and you see a opinion that's okay, 20 people agree with this. I believe that psychologically we tend to move with the crowd. So if they're doing this, I'm like, oh, okay, I definitely agree with that, but we lack no information. So if one type of news is being pushed out, we're just naturally going to agree with it because we don't want to seem with like we have contrarian views and we don't agree with what they're agreeing with. That means you're also with him. So we're going to hate you too. So there's that feeling of like, I don't want to be seen as the bad guy. So I'm just going to agree with what I'm going to agree with. There's one thing I saw as well on YouTube.
There's a couple of those people where I could just bring out. I've had arguments with my wife about it. Yeah. It's like Andrew Tate was one of them too. Exactly. Like I think even Donald Trump. And again, I'm not saying I agree with anything, but I'm like, but what the information they were getting was the one that's in social media. But when they were explaining things, they weren't taking it out of context. Mm-hmm. Or I was talking to my friends in the States about Trump and things like that. And they're like, oh, you're a fan. I'm like, I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm like, but let's look at what he's done. Like again, it was, or Andrew Tate was like, oh, he's this, this, and this. I'm like, well, where do you get this information? Mm-hmm. Like, well, this one source went and all of the media went out and automatically he was canceled so quickly. Mm-hmm. And it was funny how that actually happened, right?
They took away his Uber, Airbnb. Everything. I'm like, how do you take away someone's Airbnb for something that you just don't agree with?
Yeah. Like, well, things when they canceled like Kanye, I could kind of understand that because he was going off his meds and he's going kind of crazy, but not everything he was saying was crazy and stuff too. But I just don't understand canceling somebody. Like, let the person talk, let them say too, if they're not harming people, like what happened to freedom of speech? But sorry, there was one thing you saw on YouTube, but I didn't cut you off. But.
There's a recent interview. There's actually two things I want to go with this. Elon Musk did an interview with the CBC. I don't know if you've seen this interview. No. You've seen it?
I'm just laughing because Elon Musk blows my mind.
Yeah. So he goes in the interview. It's BBC, UK BBC. Yeah. And they're talking about how there's a rise of hate speech on Twitter. So this is the interviewer asking him this. And Elon asks him, oh, what have you seen? He's just like, oh, it's just on my For You page. It's on my page and everything. There's a rise of hate speech. Elon says, give me one example of hate speech you've seen. And he says, well, it's just like on the feed and everything. Everyone says it. Well, you said you've seen it. So give me one example of a piece of hate speech you've seen. And Elon is pressing this guy and he cannot give him an example. So Elon is just like, you lied, right? And the thing that Elon did was he was doing a spaces on Twitter. So that means like anyone on Twitter can type in. So BBC could not go back and edit it and say that this is the way we did it. So it was a live interview with everyone hearing this. So it really just exposed how the media can really construct a certain message and just push it out and everyone starts believing like that. And it's actually farther from the truth.
So one of the things on top of like, I know I touched on Donald Trump. Again, I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan and I'm not saying anything else. Mm-hmm. But one thing I talked to Natalie about too, and she's like, well, he's very racist. And I'm like, and I was asking people like, well, can you show me where the racist thing he was saying? And the same thing, I asked and I was pressing them.
The misogynist.
I'm like, listen, there's shit that he said about, grabbing the, and doing all that, like, which I'm like, obviously,
that's whack.
Like, listen, and I think he's cheated a lot of people. Like, I think he's a scumbag. I do, but did run the country well. Great. Yeah. But when you're talking about certain things, I'm like, great. Well, then show me the example. I just want to see what you're as opposed to the media telling you all these things without giving you examples. Now, I just saw something on Biden, which he tried to like, he was paying for things for keeping the blacks like segregated because he didn't want his family growing up in a black neighborhood and like everything. There's 4 or 5 articles about him coming out and saying how racist he was. And this is on, he's actually come out and said it. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like how you labeling Trump as racist, and he may be. I'm not saying he's not. But when you have Biden, which is a president, which is clearly racist, like saying all these racist remarks and doing and yet there's nothing on the media talking about how racist it is. It's like, that's what I hate about it. It's like if you had somebody talk about how racist Biden is, we have to find it on places like TikTok or Instagram or something too. And they're like, the people just don't give it credit to that. And that drives me nuts too, right? So it's all about like, there's the cancel culture and then there's all of like whatever the media wants you to believe. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, throwing these things that they get exposed in the media on one thing so they can hide something in the back. Yeah. Right. Like honestly, like why has nobody else said anything how racist Biden is? How come we talk about he can't even put a sentence together now? No one talks about how much of an like he's basically should be in an old age home.
Yeah.
And no one's saying that anymore. I don't know. Again, am I going to get canceled for saying this stuff? Which I'm saying, like,
you're just speaking the truth.
This is stuff I've actually seen.
Exactly.
And from his recording. So like, and people, I like the sound bites in which they use on him where somebody says like, the realtors do it. And they say like, Biden, like, what do you think my house is worth? He's like 100 billion, and he can't even say numbers. And he's from like, and like, he can't even say a number. And you're trying to tell me this guy's running the country. He's president. Come on.
It just goes back to like with the ideology of like what they're pushing out. It's like he's just a figure of that particular thing. And whether he's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter because he is pushing this ideology and we're going to just keep things at hush hush and whatever. And actually back to the second interview I was doing, this guy on YouTube was just going around asking people like, okay, what do you think about Andrew Tate? They're like, I hate him or whatever. He's a misogynist. Okay, define misogynist for me. Define what's a racist thing he said. And then the thing he did was like, he said a quote about women and he actually spoke highly of women. Like, okay, women are this, 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 and that. He's like, oh, what do you think about that? Oh, wow, that's the nicest thing ever. Do you know who said that? I don't know. Oh, like, Andrew Tate said that. They lose their minds. Like, oh my God, like, I don't agree with it, but you just said you liked what he said. Yo, but he's misogynist. So what did he say that's misogynist there? You just agreed, but you're programmed to think to not like someone because the media says don't like that person, whether that's Tate, Trump, whoever like is on the other side of things, just because we have to fit into a certain narrative, and that's what's hot right now.
Well, it's not even the narrative. It's like the media or whoever the powers be, they get scared of anybody who has a good following and that they may change that doesn't go along with their agenda or might be pushed back. Like, so Andrew Tate, I don't care whether he's a misogynist. I don't know what I don't know what you classify him as. And I don't listen, I'm not a disciple of Andrew Tate by any stretch of the imagination, but he was also getting people to act on doing things that they didn't want them to do. Like he was getting them to wake up and
work out,
you know, like nice believe in yourself.
Exactly.
Oh, we no longer need pills to be like for antidepressants. He was against the pharmaceutical company. He was all for, you know, being your own self, you know, be a self-man, like entrepreneurship. So I'm like, oh, wait a second.
Self-reliance.
I don't have to go to university, spend $100,000 and then be home, like, you know, and then be jobless and homeless. Right. I can do this on like, this is kinds of thing. If he was saying to people, yes, there might be how he got to things may not be the best way. Like, you know, we talked about his chat rooms with my wife. We talk about those kinds of things. Yeah, maybe there was nothing illegal what he was doing there, but you don't like it. That's fine. You don't have to do that. But again, I'm not telling you to listen to everything too, but it was against the agenda they had, which puts money in their pocket. It keeps you asleep. You're going to have problems with that.
He was waking up people to think for themselves, right? Like you can be self-reliant and actually go to the gym, work out, wake up, make your bed, take accountability, have ownership in the things that you're doing.
How dare you say that?
How dare you say
that?
How
dare you?
How dare you tell guys to like treat women better and actually go drive nice cars and work
what he
hard.
said, what was interesting, it was like, take care of yourself first, right? And then don't I think he was also saying about not chasing women. The thing that people don't like is like, well, he told people what they didn't want to hear. And that's, you know, and especially for women, like I was misogynist. I'm like, well, what is it that he's told people like, you're not worth it. Like, I remember one thing he was saying, like, maybe I want to talk about it, but you know, it takes men like, you know, in their a number of years to gain more wealth. And that's where their peak of their exposure, or like as a man or something is like it's their
like
peak.
When you hit your stride.
Right. You're hitting your stride. Whereas women like are at like 18. He goes, you go to a yacht, he goes, all these rich men own the yacht and all these 18-year-olds are on there. All they had to do is be born and look pretty. And they're like, well, women didn't like that. And it's like, well, he's like, well, he was giving an example, right? I'm like, and I'm not saying that's true for everybody, but again, not saying that there's not rich women out there to own yachts and stuff too, but they're also, we don't see that. So I'm like,
you're saying that men have to create their value.
That's right.
Right. So we have to make ourselves into someone who can contribute something to society.
Right. How dare you? How dare you contribute to society?
How dare you contribute to society? So we're talking about things that are right. And I can say being right is subjective. What you believe is right might not be to someone who opposes you is right. So how do we define what is right in your opinion?
What's a loaded question? How do we define what's right?
Yeah, because they could believe like, okay, you know what Chanelli's saying could be right, but wholeheartedly, the way they believe what they believe about what they believe, the same way you do, could be right as well. So how do we societally move towards what is right?
I would say at the end of the day, what's right is like, hey, it's like, are you helping people along the way? Or is it harming? As long as you're not harming somebody, if categorically, like if there's way to show people that, there, whether there's a history of it, or you can look something up to show you're right. But I think what's right, it's something God given to us, that it's a resident. Yeah. Like, I don't know if like most people believe in their souls or what they're God given, but I 100% believe in, God and the soul. Like when it resonates well in you, what you're doing right, I think that's what helps you, right? Like that's what you know is right. And if you follow your soul and what replenishes or makes your soul happy, you're helping other people. You're not getting ahead by screwing people over. You're not getting ahead by just tarnishing other people. You may get ahead in maybe money, but you're not going to be fulfilled in your soul. And I think that's what you need to be looking at.
Amazing. As we go towards 2024, 2025, this becomes a norm to really, really think of what someone is before addressing them, watching what you're saying. How should people stay true to themselves in this ever evolving world moving forward?
Yeah, well, we're going to have a problem with that. I think if you think the end of the world is coming in, like there's, I know we go, I don't care. We talk about my belief in God, and and if you believe in God, you believe in the devil as well, and you believe that there's going to be some sort of fight happening now, and you want to decide what side you're going to be on.
It's the Book of Revelation.
The Book of Revelation, absolutely.
Exactly.
So by staying true to yourself, it's like knowing that will keep you on the right side, right? And like doing that, it's like staying true to yourself. Because even if you read the Bible and it talks, or if you know anything about God, God says, the path to the righteousness is not taken by most people. It's like, it's very few. You're supposed to be in this world, but not part of the world, because most of the world is going to follow the wrong path. So if you're staying true to yourself and true to your God, like you're going to be on the right path, and like, there's going to be a lot of pushback. But at the end of the day, if this feels right and your connection with the power above, with God, is right, you can't do wrong.
You can't lose.
You can't lose. You may lose your life, but you won't lose your eternal soul.
Exactly. Amazing. DC, this was a great chat. Really enjoyed it. Everyone, let us know what you think about this episode. Do you feel pressure to change the way you are just to fit into the mob? Do you feel like you have to go with everyone and what they're doing just to feel as if like you're part of society? Let us know. DC, any closing words?
Stay true to yourself, my friend. That would be my closing words. At the end of the day, when the judgment comes, there's only going to be you by yourself. There's no one behind you. You can't point a finger at anybody else. So know who you are and own up to what you've done and come to peace with that.
Amazing. All right, everybody. That was the DC Talks podcast. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe on all platforms. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, where you can see the full length of this interview. And also for more clips, go to David Chinelli _realtor.
I think it's DV Chinelli _realtor.
DV Chinelli. Just type in David Chinelli on Instagram and you'll find his account there. He has thousands of followers, and you can watch all the many clips if you don't have time to really tap into the full interview. We'll see you next week, and have a great week.
Thanks, guys.